Now, the Falcons have closed out the first week of voluntary OTAs. It was a good look from all accounts, Jarvis. I know you were up in Flowery Branch this week. We'll both be at the Benz next week and are excited to be able to see that. But whoa, one of the first reactions that we both had, both for minicamp, for the rookies, as well as this week, is there are some crowded position rooms. There is some serious competition, maybe none larger than the running back room itself. Bijan
Yes.
Robinson is showing us that he probably has the goods, right? And not
Yes.
just the goods on the ground, but he's going to be a serious threat for the passing game as well. Tyler Algier, he said that he and Bijan are the kind of guys that are like soaking it up from one another, right? He's learning from Bijan so he can be a better pass catcher. And you're thinking to yourself, wow, can you imagine Tyler Algier actually besting what he did last year? But he's on mission. And then there's Cordarrelle Patterson, who literally set everything on fire for the Falcons in the beginning of the season. Of course, he did have an injury. And I think just being an older guy, he just kind of sputtered out at the end of the season. That's understandable, just fatigue. But that said, and those are only the top three, because there are others in the running back room that sometimes we low-key don't talk about, but they could have a stellar year just like Tyler Algier and kind of be the cream that rises to the top. Jarvis, I think there will be some serious competition all the way through training camp to see who's truly going to be RB1, RB2, or RB1A and RB1B. But I wonder at the end of the day, whether you think about it from a statistical standpoint, who gets in there on third and long, who gets in there when they're in the red zone, who do you feel like might be looking like the outside looking in?
I think it has to be Cordarrelle Patterson for what you just mentioned, right? He's like he's getting long in the tooth. He's I think 30 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So when you think about that being at that stage and taking those hits later in his career, because he got moved to hold the running back spot specifically, when he came down, like he was being used in different spots in Minnesota, yeah. But I think Arthur Smith more focused on using him at that running back spot. Now, of course, he excelled, but I think once you have guys who this is what they do, and a guy like Tyler Algier, who you found in the 5th round last year, and then the number 8 overall pick, that kind of automatically sets him as RB1. And I think that I think Arthur Smith is gonna play around with that, and I'll explain myself in just a second. But I think Cordarrelle Patterson overall, he's the guy that's going to be left out, because when you think about him, being in this space, right? Because I look at it from this standpoint: pass blocking. Tyler Algier, that's something that he was really good at in his rookie year, and you don't normally see that in rookie running backs, because that's one of the determining factors that keeps rookie running backs off the field. Because hey, you got to block dudes. Like, you don't just get used, or just get hand the ball off like you do in college, and it kind of doesn't work like that. So when you have different game plans and different systems coming into the NFL, they have to be able to do that. So I think Tyler Algier is going to check the box on that from that aspect of it. And I think he said something really interesting to me yesterday when I asked him about what their role will look like, and what that the offense will look like with all of these guys in this running back room. And he said that, hey, everybody's going to get the opportunity to eat. Yeah, I do agree with him, but some people are going to be eating more than others, T.
Right. Yeah. Some people may be eating entrees, some may be eating appetizers.
Or hors d'oeuvres.
Hors d'oeuvres, kiddie meals. Be ready.
Yes.
But I do think that what that's
Dollar
going to
menu.
be is, yeah, exactly. Yeah, somebody's not going to be happy with their
Yes.
meal selection, if you will.
Or they
But
just gonna have to
Jarvis,
deal
you
with it.
actually, right? That's what I was
Yeah.
about to say.
Yeah.
You actually put something out there that I think is interesting, because what I do know about Arthur Smith is he has his players buying into his system, right?
Right.
And so
Mm-hmm.
Cordarrelle Patterson, I think, is going to be that guy who says, "Use me however you will." So if that means that, hey, Marquise Williams is the benefactor of him not being used so much in
You
the
might be
running back
onto
room or in the backfield,
something.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
then that gives
Yep.
him opportunity to be more effective and really make that special teams core something special. So I still
Right.
think there's something there. And also, you talk about maybe some of those low red zone situations, right?
Right.
Where someone like Cordarrelle Patterson, and it may just be because of veteran experience, where he may be able to see, okay, I know that what it looks like is that I should go straight up the middle, but I'm watching this defense and I know what they're about to switch. So I actually need to go around this defense in order to get into that end zone. There may be situations where Arthur Smith and Dave Ragone know that CP is still the best guy, or it may be a 3rd and 1. and you just want to throw a team off because first down you ran it, second down you ran it, but you ran it with whatever Bijan's strengths are. You ran it with Tyler's strengths. Maybe CP comes in 3rd and 1 or even 4th and 1. So that's what I love about him. The fact that A, he's versatile, and B, Jarvis, you and I have been in the room when Dave Ragone has lit up at the fact that he finally was able to get Cordarrelle Patterson with him, right? So I
Yep.
just think that that's a positive thing, that Dave Ragone is going to make sure that he finds a way to utilize Cordarrelle Patterson in a way that they think is going to not just be good for the team, but be good for CP as well. Now, another thing, Jarvis, that I thought was very, very interesting, speaking of, well, this is a room that has actually been shrinking and shrinking, right?
Yep.
Such that we know that we know that we know who QB1 is. There are no questions about that. But here's what I thought was
Absolutely.
interesting. It's one thing for Arthur Smith and Dave are going to say, hey, you're a guy, you're QB1, we're rolling and we're rocking with you, right? And for Terry Fontenot to back that up by not going out and drafting a QB, if you will, or saying, hey, Lamar Jackson, thanks, but no thanks, we'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Yep.
it's another thing for the offense to say that they're behind him. We've heard it from the O-line saying how excited they are that they're a cohesive, consistent unit that'll be able to give him the kind of pass protection that he needs. And then from his running back room to his receiver room. But when it's most impressive to me, Jarvis, is when the guys on the other side of the football are believing and buying in. Richie Grant joined our guys, Carl Dukes and Mike Bell, on the Dukes and Bell show a couple days ago. And actually, I think it was just Mike Bell. It was the Dukes and Bell show because, of course, Carl's daughter graduated from high
Mm-hmm.
school, so he hasn't been there. But Richie Grant said that guy is the hardest working in the building. He was like, basically, we are riding with him, we are riding behind him, and we believe that he's going to do some special things because nobody is working harder in the, not just the QB room, but in the building overall than Desmond Ridder. Jarvis, as someone who's played on the defensive side of the ball, how important is that to know, for a QB to know that he has not just the 11 or the 10 other guys on his side of the ball, but really to have the entire team behind him?
It is so important. Like I like when you were talking, I started thinking back to when I was in college, right? And there was a couple of years early on, in my college football career, that our quarterbacks, we had like a rotation of guys, and they used to switch them in and out sometimes, and it was just offense kind of really struggling. The system wasn't conducive to what those guys' capabilities were. So it was a lot of unknown when it came to the offense side of the football in my first couple of years. But as I moved on into my junior year, we had a transfer. Yeah, that transfer portal was working, even though it didn't exist back then. It was working back then, and then we got a guy by the name of Yule Joyner. See, Albany legend. The dude came in. Of course, I'm out. I'm being my silly self. I like, hey man, you ain't earned jack around here, so I don't care what you did when you were here in Albany, and I don't care what you did at the other school that you came from. So you got to prove yourself. And oh my. After that first game, I was like, "Yep, this our guy," and we rolled that bad boy till we couldn't ride it no more. And I think that when you have a guy like that come in, and you have, not only have the guys on the offense side of the football, buying in, but when you prove yourself and you show that you're all about that action, or you really about that life, and to the defensive side of football, that kind of amps things up a little bit. And when you have a young guy like Richard Grant saying that, also when you have a veteran guy like Calais Campbell, because he mentioned this in conversation the other day as well. He said that he watched film on Desmond Ridder when he was going through his free agency process. So when you have guys saying, okay, he didn't even know the guy. He sat down and watched film of this guy. He said, you know what? Based off of what I see on this film, this dude can get it done. And plus he was on the road against the Ravens as well, playing against them. So all of those things come into play when you're starting to think about that belief, right? The system. They talk about the culture. Ultimately, always talking about culture and everything like that. That's part of the culture. When people believe in the quarterback, because hey, that's the most important position on the field. And if people on both sides of the ball believe in him and they're getting behind him, they see him putting in the work, and then they start to see that transfer onto the field, Falcons might just be onto something special, too.
Yeah, I believe they are. And two things. Number one, I think of him as a quiet dog, like a quiet assassin, because we always talk about wanting to have players with that dog in them. When you're
Right.
going to go to your running back
They
and you know
don't.
how to nuance the conversation and tell Bijan, hey, that was great, but here's kind of how you made an error. Here's how you can reset that. But doing it in a way that you nuance it to make it receptive for him, I think that's
Yes.
huge, because you're
So
showing
true.
subtly a command to the rest of your offense, but also a respect to a rookie. I think that's powerful. And the other piece is this. You and I were in the building post game when Grady Jarrett had it up to here last season. He just had it up to here because his defense had done everything it could possibly do to put the Falcons in position to win, but the offense gave the Falcons absolutely nothing. And just to hear what Calais Campbell had to say, I feel like, yeah, Grady Jarrett and the rest of those guys are going to go to war because they know, hey, if we put you in position to give you the ball back, you're actually going to do something with it. So I absolutely love what I'm hearing from the defensive side of the ball, that they are confident in what is brought to the table. But what do you guys think about that? I mean, how exciting is it for you to know that a guy going into his third year is like that excited about his second year, almost rookie quarterback, because he only had 4 games last year. Tell us what you think about what Richie Grant had to say. What about what Calais Campbell had to say as a veteran? I think that's exciting and very powerful as well. And do you guys have thoughts about that running back room and how much that competition could mean to have a fire under the Falcons offense? Tell us about it. Check us out on YouTube. Like you always do, put the comments in there. Even while, you know what, Jarvis? They're home for a 3-day weekend. They might as well binge watch ATL Day 1s and tell us all the comments, and we can check them out. Come back to you on Tuesday and tell you what's what. And don't forget to download us wherever you download your podcast, because if you're out there on the road traveling for Memorial Day, why not take Jarvis and Tenitra with you?